the particular project that I am going to talk today as a prelude, as a distinct prelude. Actually, a couple of years back, I went to a reserve forest of MP, Bandhavgarh Reserve Forest. This forest is a huge forest, of course, not as big as other like Corbett or Kanha. It's a smaller size of reserve forest. It has got a 330-kilometer buffer area, square kilometer, and 820 kilometers, the main core area. The problem is that once you enter that core area, nothing works. Your cell phone tower will not be visible, and you will not be able to communicate with anybody. I always dedicate all my speeches, lectures all over what I am doing to my mom. Well, I have more than 100 DIYs appeared all over UK, USA, Russia, Europe, Australia, and India. I have more than 200 blogs appeared all over several magazines and NTPC in-house magazines. And in fact, this month, one DIY is appearing in Silicon Chip, Australia. I also appeared as a guest speaker in Elector Media International. Well, coming back to the prelude of this project. So in Bandhavgarh Reserve Forest, they used to have a huge microwave communication system that used to run on solar PV system with a backup battery. And when I was talking to one of the game warden, I came to know that this microwave communication system used to work in the beginning of 2-3 years. That was 15 years old. And for the last 5-6 years, it does not run more than a few minutes. Because of that, they consider it as a huge power guzzlers. Battery भी change करने के बाद भी जितना भी charging मिलता है, it does not work more than couple of minutes. So they were thinking, they were telling me that they should have thought some sort of, the authorities should have thought of some sort of chat terminal which could work on very low power, and the battery backup system should have been substantial. So with that clue, I started on embarked on this project. And here what I am going to show you is a chat terminal used on simple Arduino running on low power 8 megahertz internal oscillation, runs on battery, and with a KS0100, that 82 that small 82164, that LCD terminal. This is useful for communication in difficult terrain where cell network is not available. Heavy noisy area like a boiler floor, where if you have, even though you have cellular connections, you have PA system, but the noise is so high that you will not be able to communicate clearly to the man on the other end of the line. And also in places like Bandhavgarh Reserve Forest or in the places of Asdyke area. Asdyke area normally becomes at the remote place, normally among the reservoirs, hilly terrain where cell phone network is not available, and because of this huge noise out of airflow, there this sort of communication works very well. In fact, I use this terminal in our Asdyke area, in NTPC Asdyke area, and of course this is also useful in open cast mines area and hydropower station. On a small 1200 lithium-ion battery, it runs for 8 hours. Well, the one problem I encountered is that LCD terminal works on 5 volt, whereas this low power Arduino works on 3.3 volt, and this battery has maximum 3.7 volt output. So to counter this problem, I used a small DC to DC converter. This is a very small, very minimum loss DC to DC inverter. Taking 0 to 3 volt, it converts to 5 volt. So that 5 volt just is given to the cathode of that LCD. The 64128 LCD KS100108 is a very common LCD. And out of this Arduino and using this LCD terminal, I created a small editor sort of thing. Okay, and using this Chatmetry project, using a 868 megahertz 500 to 1000 milliwatt, that is 27 dBi to 30 dBi radiation power. In a forest area, you can speak as long as around 15 kilometers to 30 kilometers with 1 watt power, and up to 50 milliwatt you can safely go up to 6 to 10 miles, around 15 kilometers. And on a 20 watt solar PV cell and 1300 milliwatt lithium ion battery or LiPo battery that is normally used in your cell phone, or a 3300 milliwatt hour battery that is also used in cell phone, it can go up to 10 hours communication mode. The screen geometry that I have used is that the 64-128 screen is divided into two windows, 4 lines on top and 4 lines on the bottom, and in between there is 1 line and the partition line. And for communication I have used a small old PS2 keyboard that came with your first desktop computer. It is good enough for using with this project, and in case you do not have it, you can still use an USB type keyboard, and for that you have to use an UART converter. CP102, that converter is available normally in the market, which converts your UART to serial, so that also you can use. Of course you have to do some changes in the programming. So with that we created a very low grade editor built up on the top window using the following. The keys I have used, very few keys I used, and of course I could use a color TFT. Color TFT I could use because the speed communication is not so high, so that I could comfortably use a color TFT. The problem with color TFT is that it consumes more energy, and color TFT is not very much visible under broad daylight. So under broad daylight, LCD with backlight on is gives a better visibility. So TFT LCD, color TFT is not good choice. Black and white LCD is becoming more legible with this project. Yes, the button I have used for this low grade editor is all alphanumeric keys, means ABCD 0 to 9, left key, right key, space bar, backspace, escape, del. However, the enter button has no functionality associated here because enter gives 2 commands, escape and 27. In that case, I have used a hash key. Just if you write anything at the end, if you write a hash key, the moment hash key is read, it will consider that it's an enter button. So the message will be sent. So the top window is your message you are sending, and the bottom window will be the message you will be receiving from the other end. So I created one terminal, means the Arduino I placed it on the bottom side of the keyboard itself, and the top side at one end I placed that TFT screen. So everything is in one keyboard size box is on the keyboard itself. The whole project is set. The escape key is used for clearing of the entire window. The right arrow is for jumps 1 space forward, and left arrow is jump 1 space backward. Backspace is for deleting word. Spacebar is the moving 1 character forward. And some of the basic features I have included is the ring. When you receive a message, an LED will go up. In that case, you can put a buzzer also. To reduce the backlight consumption, I used one GPIU as switch with a transistor switching to switch on the backlight. So that way, when there is no message after a particular delay, the screen will be blank, just preserving power. The keyboard in a PS2 keyboard, you will find this 4 connections. One is a ground and positive, and keyboard data and clock. So this keyboard and that LCD, for that only it requires 5 volt. Otherwise, every other thing works on 3.3 volt. Well, the major problem is that LCD screen. If you have to use this LCD TFT, this black and white LCD screen, and it has a huge number of pins. 15 pins is required to run. So 15 pins for an Arduino. For low power, we used Arduino. and on internal clock, 8 megahertz internal clock oscillation. So 8 megahertz Arduino with so many less pins, the LCD screen could not be accommodated there. So to accommodate LCD on the Arduino, I have used a MCP23017, that is GPIU expander. So every attachment here is actually reducing the speed. Means whatever coming out from the Arduino will go to the expander, and expander will again interpret to the LCD screen. The speed will be reduced. But because this is the chat terminal, we'll be writing on the keyboard. So that is the quality of the communication is not compromised here. This MCP23017 is a very excellent GPIU expander. 16 pins you can expand on I2C communication, means you will be using only two Arduino. These two pins will go to the expander, and expander will have all the connections connected to the LCD screen. Very few things are required actually. The Arduino, that keyboard, then LCD screen, the GPIU expander, and this E32 TTL, this 868 transceivers. Well, antenna is a challenge. Antenna, I used handmade antenna, but this 5 dBi antennas are available in the market. This 3-meter cable is there. You fix that antenna on a tree top or a wall top, or even by holding on your hand, you'll be able to communicate 5 to 6 kilometers at length easily. And because this we are using this spread spectrum bandwidth works below the noise level, so surrounding noise does not hamper its performance. And because of low noise and because of huge spread factor, the small leaves cannot produce that obstruction in the communication medium, that wave flow. And this is particularly advantageous because of this high spread factor. And to make two terminals particular to communicate with each other, there are few things we have to adjust with this transceiver module. One is that airspeed, frequency for the channel on which to communicate, the airspeed at which to communicate, and the identity number. Identity number is a 2-byte number. 2-byte number 0 to 99, you can use any numbers, or with 4-byte hexadecimal you can use. And for two transceivers, you will have identical those numbers, then they will be communicating with each other. And the bandwidth is available is 865 to 867. There are 8 plus. Some transceivers has 8 channels, some transceivers has more than 8 channels. So 0 to 7 channel is blocked for commercial activities, and beyond 7, that from 8th channel you can use for your hobby purpose. But only thing is that if you use it consistently, you have to communicate to the authority that this channel you are using with this much radiation power. And one beautiful thing is happening at this moment. LoRa 2.4 gigahertz is available in the market now. It has started appearing from Semtech. And 2.4 gigahertz is free in India. It is also called ISM band. Instrumentation, scientific and medical instruments all are connected on 2.4 gigahertz. So 2.4 gig is free in India. So there you have many channels available there. And I am also working on this 2.4 gigahertz. And this is a particular RF setting software available in the market through which you can change this air rate, then address, then channel, and one more, that fixed mode. Fixed mode is enable and disable. If you make fixed mode enable, then these two will be talking to each other only. So you don't have any bulletin message or any sort of things. These modules are available from eByte, and also many more suppliers are available in India. This Amazon is also selling those modules. And for GPIU expander, this MCP23017, it has 3 address pin, A0, A1 and A2. And positive and negative side. See these 3 pins and 2 poles, that positive rail and negative rail. There are as many varieties possible with these 3 pins. and there will be as many address pins. All three of you connect to ground, there will be one address. All three will be on positive, there will be one address. Then one on negative and two on positive will be one address, that way. And schematic, if you see that schematic is straightforward. This MCP is doing the majority of the job. Most of the pins are going to this LCD, and only two pins, this SCL and SDA, these two pins are going to this Arduino. If you look at the prototype, these are the two windows. The top window is the sent, and the bottom window is received. See, there are 4 lines on the top and 4 lines on the bottom, and there is a partition line. So whatever you write, it will appear on the top window, and whatever you will receive will appear on the bottom window. So that way the communication will go. It's a very small communication you can send. You cannot expect to have more than 3 lines communication to appear on one screen here. So maximum 3 lines can appear here. That way you can send small communications. Like in a boiler floor, I know most of the communication, like open the valve or close the valve, or valve number, or something oil burner number to open or close, something like that. So that sort of communication can appear comfortably here, because huge noise will not be able to make clear communication. Same goes for the idle power station area, where that cell phone connection tower is not available, and same for the ASDIC areas also, where you will find that this cell phone tower is not available. And recently I found that we have a huge solar field here, that's 15 megawatt solar field, and solar field is situated on the valley of a hilly area. So there also I find that the cell phone towers are not available nowadays. See, nowadays problem is that the cell phone tower has got a particular radiation limit allowed by the government, and authorities are stringent nowadays. So earlier, that cell phone tower companies, they used to have higher radiation power per tower, so the signals could reach those hilly areas comfortably. But because nowadays because of these regulations, they have to limit their radiation, and in that case they have to increase the number of towers. So that way they are not having communications in those areas. And programming is very easy. You have to take you have to be little careful while connecting this LCD screen to the MCP 23017. Once that is done, the remaining part is very easy. It's very, very easy. And this antenna is quite capable of making communication on ASDIC area to 10 to 11 kilometers distance, no problem. And these are the bandwidths available in India for free use. And of course, that I'm talking about the 2.4 gigahertz LoRa is also available in the market. So that also going to give you more advantages. Well, that's all for this project part. Now I'll open for this question answer session. If you have any, I'll try to answer those questions. Yes, there is one question. Can we use Raspberry Pi in place of Arduino? Yes, of course you can use Raspberry Pi. You have to there also MCP 23017 will be connected to I2C terminal, and TXRX will go to the Raspberry Pi. So there also you can connect, but of course you have to change the programming. You have to change the programming, and you have to put more power there, because Raspberry Pi is a little more power hungry. In India, can you use 865 megahertz onward frequency band? Yes, that 8 channel you can use, and some LoRa transceivers are giving 8 to 12 channel, I think they are offering. Beyond that you cannot use. Can you add secrecy to the communication? Yes, you can add secrecy. What sort of secrecy I'm not getting, but these two terminals, means receiver and sender, these are already connected with their ID code, their channel, and their air speed, and that mode. These 4 key fields are already there. They are connected with these 4 fields. And for adding secrecy, you have to look it in the programming style. You can send your communication with a particular number, and if that number is received by the receiver, it will appear on the screen. Otherwise, it will discard the number. That way, you can add secrecy. Yes, you can do. Is all the frequency available in LoRa module can be used in India? No. Only 868 megahertz band on 7 channel beyond is free. And if you use it, you have to you have to communicate the authority that you are using this band with this radiation power. That you have to intimate the authority. Where can you get the code for this DOI? Yes, it is available in the EFI page. There you can get the code. Best antenna to achieve long range. Well, best antenna to achieve long range is directional antenna. This antenna, what I have shown you, is omnidirectional antenna. It is open to all the directions. Means if you are using north-south, that all the radiation energy on the east, west, and south will be wasted. So in that case, you can use highly directional Yagi antenna. You can use Yagi antenna for long range, and with less power, you can do that. What is the purpose of the LoRa module? I was late to the material. LoRa module is for transferring your chat window output to the receiver, for sending that command, the data to the receiver. This is the chat terminal, one-to-one chat terminal. Only master and slave can access with the data if we don't connect to internet. No, we are not connecting to internet. It is not at all connected to internet. And there is no master or slave here. It is one-to-one communication. One is a sender terminal, one is a receiver terminal. The next moment in the receiver sends that the other one will be receiving. This is one-to-one communication channel, chat communication channel. Can NRF be used in place of LoRa? NRF 24L01, we are talking. You can use, but see, LoRa, NRF cannot go more than 500 meter. I don't think NRF can go 500 to 1 kilometer. Is LoRa works as a duplex mode? Yes, LoRa can work at full duplex mode, but in that case, your distance will be very reduced, greatly reduced. You have to increase the communication frequency.